Well, here we are again on this beautiful island of the Outer Hebrides. As you can see, the sky is a flat grey. It's totally overcast. And on days like that, it's very easy to get disappointed and feel that there's not going to be any dramatic light. And what I believe is that there's some colour in the foreground here, and I think I might be able to make this my sunrise. And I've never photographed this scene before. And obviously I've been to this beach dozens and dozens of times, and there's a tendency to do the same thing again and again and again. But this is something new. So I'm going to try, maybe with a 12mm prime, to get as much of this scene in as possible. Use this incredible red rock foreground, juxtaposed with the beautiful teal green ocean, and have a little bit of sky in. I can see some layers, I can see some triangles. There's lots of atmosphere, there's some movement in the water. So I'm going to try and make something here that I've never made before. So it feels like a kind of technical challenge as well as an artistic challenge, and I guess that's what photography is. So welcome to the Isle of Harris. Let's see if we can make a photograph in this beautiful place. It's new for me, so therefore it could be new for you. So yeah, let's get stuck in. So one of the first things I always do is don't bother with the tripod. I stick the camera in live view and get a feel for the scene. So I can see I've got this beautiful red foreground, and it does add some incredible, it's an incredible foreground. So I really love it. So yeah, my instincts I think were right. There's definitely a photograph here. It's very open, it's very angular, but at the end of the day it's definitely a photo. So I'm just gonna, I know roughly where my camera needs to be now, and one of the things with landscape photography is I always feel it's a bit of a juggle. You know, we're trying to juggle gear. It's not a terribly cold day, but it's cold enough. The leveling base on my Gitso tripod really helps to be able to position the tripod exactly as I would want it to be. Move it a fraction forward. Of course, every time you move it, you need to level it again. But I kind of like this. There's what I'll do, I'll just show you the scene as a horizontal so you can see the video. What I'm looking at in this piece of film is you can see the red foreground, you can see the pool, then we've got that beautiful teal water, we've got the promontory of rock coming in from the right hand side, and then we're looking into those distant mountains. So it feels very compact, and I'm really quite satisfied with that. I think the only thing I'm really going to have to think a lot about is the shutter speed, to try and find a shutter speed. In fact, I think I might take this as a horizontal. One of the amazing things with this lens is that it's always sharp. And so what I'm going to do is I'm just going to take this shot just on the rise there and let everything fall away from the rocks. So I'm going for a 3-second shutter speed in the first scene. And that's kind of good. It's got some of the energy in the water there. I don't need a graduated filter. The sky is within the exposure range, so there's no problem with that at all. But yeah, I like the red rocks in the foreground. I like just the arrangement of the scene. I could wonder if I could get a fraction less sky. It's not adding anything to the shot there. So I'm now at a 4-second exposure, and I might stick a 3-stop, so a 3-stop would take me to 8, about a 30-second exposure. So let's try that. So of course I've realised I don't have a 3-stop in these. This is a 6-stop. So what I will do is I'll make some adjustments so that my shutter speed is about, without the filter, half a second. So I've set it at 400 ISO. I'm at f8 actually. So I'll stop that down to f11, and I've made it 500 ISO. So it's a little bit underexposed, but it's so rich and saturated. And what I'll do is I'll use a 6-stop. I'll just check the polarizing here. Yeah, I don't want to polarize that pool. There's a pool down there, and I just want to make sure that I can still see that. So I'll put a 6-stopper in, and a nice little trick is that if you've got a half a second exposure with no filter, with a 6-stop it's half a minute. So it's a nice little rule of thumb there. So now I'll take a 30-second exposure, and that is obviously going to totally smooth out the water, take some of the energy out of the waves, and that is obviously going to create a much calmer scene. Nothing else is really moving, the clouds aren't moving too much, there's not a lot of cloud in the sky anyway. But at the end of the day, what I'm trying to do is just get this nice big rich foreground. Now you can see from this film how close the tripod is to the edge of the rocks, but when we compare that to how much foreground the shot seems to have in it, this is where a super wide angled lens really comes into its own. Zoom in and it is absolutely tack sharp. So yeah, and all of a sudden that red foreground rock becomes the sunrise on a grey day. We've got the colour there, the richness of the tones. Happy. What better way to spend the morning? So one of the main things about this is the second area I've decided to come over to. It's an area I know. I knew that this pool was here, and I knew that there was quite a lot of sand at the bottom, and I do love that richness in the foreground with the sand in the bottom of the pool. It just feels so warming again, and I think on another day, or on this day when everything's so overcast and flat, there's no highlights really, bringing warmth into the scene. And as with the first one, the first shot there, we looked at the teal green water. There's a nice contrast. It's a very harmonious colour palette. It's very pastel. So I think I'm going to try this scene here, probably again with the wide-angled lens, the 12mm prime, to see if I can kind of make it somewhat harmonious and feel the way I feel right now. So as we can see in this photograph here, what I've done is I've used a 4x5 vertical natively in camera. I'm getting a lot of that foreground in there with the sand, using the rocks to kind of frame the bottom. There's some quite nice movement through the frame down in here. And then we've got this receding landscape with kind of diagonals and points coming in. And the sky looks a bit overexposed perhaps in the film, but you can see there I've just touched it to expose it again. And it's all contained within the frame. I'm using a circular polarizer to take the shine off the foreground pool, which is also taking a little bit of shine off the sea there as well. And what we're trying to do is to create that nice warm to cool transition, and using the natural elements to just sit harmoniously in the frame. And honestly, at a fifth of a second, that's obviously too fast. So I'm just going to dial in a better exposure. Something about there. This lens is always sharp wherever you focus it. And then the 5-second exposure. Hello, you can see me in the film. That 5-second exposure takes some of the movement out of the water, and there we have just a very straightforward scene, which I think is really full of beautiful colours mainly. Every time I come to this coast, I always find something new, and it doesn't matter if it's a grey sky day or a sunset or a sunrise or aurora borealis. There's always something going on, and I think one of the most important things is to accept what is here. Flat light, grey skies. The tide is always super important on the coast. You have to really understand that the tide has a massive impact on how the water is going to interact with the world around you. Sometimes when the water gets very low, the beach can get kind of scrappy. We've spent quite a lot of time elevated here, but I think the two scenes that I've managed to capture this morning they're rich in colour, they're rich in tone, they're rich in geometry. There's an atmosphere to them that is true to the place. And I certainly don't feel as if I'm deceiving anybody by making it seem something that it's not. So I think that's one of the big lessons of this time, is that we're out in the landscape to enjoy ourselves, to be free, to be outside, to be in the elements, feeling the wind on my face here, and hopefully the audio is going to be bearable for you. But we're just, again, so blessed to be out here in the landscape. But these photographs to me are just little snapshots of engagement, finding order and simplicity out of big, more complicated landscapes. And I think if you follow your intuition and allow yourself to engage with the elements that are going to make up harmonious photographs, good foregrounds, midgrounds, backgrounds, and even if the sky's flat and boring, or seemingly flat and boring, it still adds a level of negative space or calmness to an otherwise more complicated photograph. So thank you very much. I'm going to wander around here some more and explore for another few hours, but for now that's a little snapshot of my time here this morning in the first hour and a half of a new day, and hopefully it's going to be a wonderful day, but with a good attitude you're standing a good chance. So I'm going to grab some coffee and maybe have a little bit more breakfast and look for something else. Thanks for watching. As always, if you like this stuff, click the subscribe button, give us a thumbs up, dive into the comments. It's always appreciated. And yeah, thanks for watching. Take care. See you next time.